all set, Matt.
Okay. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of open meeting law, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Southborough Municipal Technology Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough website at www.southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner by finding the meeting at southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website and YouTube an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order at 7:04. And I think we have, this is a remote participation meeting. So we do have Director Donovan, who's actually on the line right now, and he's part of our agenda. We'll get to that in a second. Let me share my screen for the agenda here. First thing we'll do is approve the minutes from our last meeting. So let me share that. Everybody should have received a copy. Thank you, Larry, for sending those out. Let me share that. So this is from our June 23rd meeting.
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
I second that. Let's do a roll call vote. Larry?
Aye.
William?
Aye.
And I also vote in the affirmative, yes. So minutes are approved. We'll move forward with library. Let me share my screen.
I'll promote Ryan up into a panelist here.
Great, thanks. So as part of a follow-up from our last meeting, we discussed inviting different people, basically department heads from the town to rotate through the MTC meeting to get more of a personal one-on-one discussion with them about their, I wouldn't say technology needs, but really about their challenges, what their needs are overall. And then we can certainly brainstorm and discuss with them how technology may or may not help solve those problems. And basically taking a portion of each and every MTC meeting to do so. So I invited Director Donovan to our call today to specifically give us an overview of how the library is doing and discuss library technology and technology strategy and where he'd like to see things go in the next few years for his strategy for the library. So with that being said, I don't know if you have any initial thoughts, Ryan. Let me unmute you. You're welcome to, or if you'd like us to launch into questions or,
Yeah, I apologize. I don't have a formal presentation just because I know you had asked a couple days ago. I just haven't had time to sort of cobble something together.
That's fine.
Tom gave me some of his time yesterday, and we just sort of chatted briefly because he's helped with a sort of a number of initiatives. I would say one of the biggest technology things that the library sort of experienced was our copy machine broke in February, and then we got it repaired. And then that sort of triggered this whole thing where we found out we hadn't had a contracted service since 2011. So that was a big part of what I've been working on with the trustees. Tom was helpful in getting us a relationship with what the town is using now, Xerox. And we're going to be thankfully getting a new machine next month. It's very bizarre to not have a copy. Even it's bizarre times right now anyway, right? For a number of reasons, but it is very strange to be going in the building and not, you know, having to move out of the way of the gigantic copy machine. Now there's just a big empty space. So, you know, one of the things we didn't have to pay for was a maintenance contract. And now that is something that we do. So there's sort of a thematic element, I think, of what I'm going to be talking a little bit about, and that is money. So, you know, we went from not paying for maintenance contract for a copy machine to now we're going to have a maintenance contract. And under normal circumstances, patron use would help to offset that cost. There's not going to be any patron use at the moment, and we don't know when that's going to resume. So we are, we've kind of game planned. We're actually producing more documents than we normally do right now because we are doing pre-packaged summer reading materials weekly for residents. Younger residents is our focus. So we're using our printers. We had a lot of spare ink cartridges. So we're just using that, and we're doing a lot of black and white printing. So there are a lot of coloring pages. So the kids can make them colorful is the good thing, but we're not doing a lot of color printing or color copying. And we're gonna have to be more mindful of that in the future. Another big thing, at least for me, has been trying to make some of our databases, which are not accessible remotely. We had two big ones, which was Ancestry Library Edition and Jstor, which were new additions to our electronic resources about 2 years ago. They could only be accessed when you came to the library on our IP. That was how they were authenticated. We have since made efforts to make both of them remote. Jstor was my last one, and we just got that completed in early June. So now you can access all library databases that we independently pay for from home. So that is something I'm hoping will continue.
What is JSTOR? What is the JSTOR database?
It's a humanities database, so it includes a number of different sort of book chapters and publications that are humanities related. So history, sociology, psychology. It's a wide variety. And there's a full listing of all library databases on the Southborough Library website under our reference databases page. So if you haven't checked that out. The other.
So have you seen? I'd be interested in knowing, like, what are the numbers? What numbers have you seen in terms of spike in increased, digital consumption due to COVID? Do you have statistics that you have access to in terms of, like, ebooks, etc.?
Yeah, so I have some initial numbers that are coming through. So the library did purchase last year, sort of right on the FY20, the beginning of the fiscal year, so around July, we got a digital resource called Hoopla. About, I would say, maybe like 10 users a month were checking out Hoopla when we had it. When we closed, it ended up being more like, I think, 300 to 400. So that was a substantial difference. And then usership is only going up. So that was great because we wanted people to use that resource and we were having trouble getting the word out. But once people,
what is Hoopla? What kind of resource is it?
so it is a resource where you can check out books. And it also has audiobook content. It has a lot more graphic novel content than anything else we have. And did I say audiobooks?
Yes.
Yeah, it has audiobooks as well.
An ebook, is it, when you say check out books, is like ebooks, is that right?
Yes, primarily people are using it as an ebook. So there's a downloadable app from either the Apple or Android app store, and you can load it on an app or you can use it from your computer.
So is this different? I know I've been using like CW Mars and Libby, and is this in the same vein as that, or?
It is similar, but it is a separate resource. So the library pays for Hoopla independently. We do not get that through the CW Mars consortium. But Larry, that's a great segue into talking about Libby and Overdrive. So it's,
Overdrive,
we say,
that was the other one, yes.
yeah, we say Libby and Overdrive. It's really the same thing. They're a company called Overdrive. It's an ebook platform that we get through the CW Mars consortium. I have some initial numbers from there, Matthew. That has, so we were pretty high already for a smaller community of around 10,000 people. Essentially, the number of people who were using it and checking out ebooks doubled over the pandemic. So I think it's somewhere around 35,000 checkouts just for
35,000 checkouts?
Yeah.
And how many people do we have how many residents do we have in Southborough?
About 6,700 have registered library cards.
So this is
great.
35,000.
Sorry, 3,500. Did I say 35,000? 3,500.
Yeah, okay. All right.
This is 3,500 people using Southborough library cards.
Yes. So not everybody who has a Southborough library card checks out digital content, but a lot of them do. So you can say about half the people who have cards have checked out a book.
Wow.
Ryan, the books that you're talking about, they have DRM on them?
No, they're all managed through the vendor services. So.
But are they, so they can be read with any EPUB reader or?
No, you need to download the app. That is.
Okay, so they do have DRM, basically.
Correct.
They have some digital rights, yeah. Yeah,
But
protected by the particular app, yeah.
We did subscribe to a resource in March called Freegal, which is a music platform that you can actually download 3 DRM free songs per week. And you can stream music on that platform. It's basically the library's answer to Spotify. So there are limitations on it. And it's anything that's in the Sony music catalog. So we do look for DRM free content, but typically because we're going through a vendor, there's a proprietary element, and then the books expire. They get checked out for a set amount of time, and then you have to read them, or they go to the next user. For Overdrive, the way it works is it's particular licenses. So the same way that the library would sort of physically purchase items and circulate them, the consortium purchases licenses for the item, and they have X number of licenses that are in use.
So I believe that when I get Kindle books through CW Mars, it actually goes right through Amazon. I have so many different ways that I get Kindle books. I can't remember which is which, but I thought it actually came through Amazon, but maybe not. Okay, thank you.
Hey, Ryan, do you do any outreach to people who are visually impaired or who have print disabilities?
Any specific resource? No, we do. If somebody gets in touch with me, I can put them in touch with the Perkins School for the Blind, and they have a
Okay.
library there that services them. We did just have a resident donate, her name was Mary Canty, and she donated these digital magnifiers. So we're hoping to circulate those long term. I've never seen they're very fancy. We have magnifying glasses at the library for people who can't see. And we do have a variety of physical resources. We have a large print collection. We have an audiobook collection. And then we actually have a magazine. We have Reader's Digest in large print, which was at the request of somebody who was a little bit more, they can see, but they have a little trouble. So they wanted a magazine that was in a larger print. So we made that possible, but that we don't have any specific resources. We donate discarded large print books in normal circumstances to the senior center to help augment a small collection that they have there.
Well, you know, there's BARD, which comes out of the Library of Congress, and that's you know, for the blind and visually impaired, print disability people, with, you know, hundreds of thousands of titles and you know, extremely good readings. Probably a lot of them actually were created by Amazon originally, and they have a variety of different you know, ways to listen on PCs or well, on Apple or Android. So that can be something for visually impaired people. There's another thing that I've been using quite a bit, which is these are free apps that will read PDF files. You know, it's text to speech, and they're really excellent. I mean, they do a great job. And any PDF, you know, if it doesn't have digital rights management on it, and most of them don't, you know, you can have it read to you by, you know, by this free readers that are available, apps on iOS or Android.
We are in the process of creating a new area on the library's website, which we're calling Lib Guides, which are sort of like usability helpers, you know, like one sheet, two sheets, where we can list different resources that we like or that are specific to a theme. So you're kind of inspiring me, William, to make one for visually impaired people, to talk about the resources specifically the library offers, and then maybe some online resources that could help as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll certainly send you an email, you know, with regards to sources that I've been using and been exploring. There's just a ton of stuff. Do you hook up with the Project Gutenberg, by the way?
I'm familiar with it. You know, that would definitely be something we would add to the Lib Guide, because those are great. So that's, if anybody's not familiar with that, those are books that are in the public domain that you can download for free that don't have any DRM associated with them. So you can load them through EPUB players and
or yeah, EPUB, or else you can have them read to you with text-to-speech readers. You know, a lot of the text-to-speech readers, not only PDFs, but they do, you know, a variety of the other EPUB or Mobi, or, you know, all the different formats. I'll send you a list. It's really quite overwhelming how much good stuff there is available. There's also a textbook sharing site called Bookshare that's actually free to students who are visually impaired or have print disabilities. And I think it's like $50 a year for non-student kind of people.
And the Perkins Library at the Perkins School for the Blind, any Massachusetts resident can apply for that. And right. So this is just a good announcement if people aren't familiar with that resource. If anybody needed help with an application or needed assistance, I'm familiar with them. We hosted a legislative breakfast back in March, and we actually had a representative from Perkins come to that event and give me some information. So I'm happy to pass that along to any residents. Honestly, people are pretty happy, I think, with the physical materials we have. There isn't a heavy call for a lot of electronic stuff, but that does seem to be fast growing. I'm getting more and more questions about that every day, as you can imagine. So any links you could help with, William? I mean, you've inspired me definitely to put a Lib Guide together. I think it would be helpful for residents.
There's another great thing about using text to speech, and that is that you can vastly speed up the reading, which if you train your ear can actually you can absorb 100% of the content, but do it at 2 or 3 times the normal reading speed. It's really very powerful. There's a great presentation that my brother sent me. I'll forward that to you as well, that talks about some ways to do that and what the benefits can be.
So Ryan, tell us about, apart from the copier, what are been the major challenges you've had over the past year, apart from copier issues, and related to that, how do you see things going with COVID? And from my understanding, you're doing some great things dealing with the COVID, with the book, pickup service, all that stuff. What are some other challenges you faced?
So as with many departments, we did have to reduce our budget when everything sort of happened. So we kind of had Tom and I had talked about this, is sort of kind of planning a little bit for replacement hardware that was at the library. And we have a very tiny budget to replace PCs at the library when they sort of are at the end of life. We have 5 that we've identified that we need to replace. So our plan was to budget for 4 because it was a slight increase of the budget. And you can sort of see where this is going. Again, going back to that money thing. Because we had to reduce. Basically what we did with a lot of our line items was what we got in FY20 ended up being what we're getting in FY21, even when we identified a need for an increase. So we had budgeted for 4 PCs. We had to go back down to 3. So that's not great. So there's still 2 computers, essentially, I need to replace. So we've already spent, depending on where our budget shapes out for FY22, those clearly are the 2 that need to be replaced the following year. So you could call that a 2-year replacement plan, but it would have been great if we replaced those machines last year. So this isn't, I think, ideal circumstances for how you want to replace computers. And, in my conversation with Tom, we talked a little bit about how it makes more sense to not even look at desktop units in 2020, but to look at more mobile solutions. For me, I ended up doing a lot of patron assistance at home during the initial months that the library was closed. I issued about 50 library cards for my house. So I made a little package and I mailed out cards to people. And I did all that from my home, but I had to do that on a personal machine. So, the idea would be if I had a library specific computer, that would be more ideal.
Yeah, so Ryan and I spoke about, and we've spoken about this in the past a little bit, but this is really kind of the first year that we're starting to really blend more the IT needs of the library into the town and whatnot. So there's some budgetary pieces that require it to leave some of the technology purchase in the library budget for reporting purposes to the state. But I think that going forward, we will certainly identify things that should be in the town replacement plan, operations. And, Ryan and I spoke about prioritizing, I know that he had a plan of these are the computers that are going to get replaced this year, but, we may have some discussion and talk about prioritizing and, if we're not going to be opening up to the public, putting public machines a little bit further down the list. If the staff really need machines that are updated. So that's definitely something that I think we're going to collaborate on going forward, and we'll account for trying to make sure that computers are being replaced appropriately, because I think we all know that productivity diminishes as machines are getting older. So.
Yeah. Going back to copier, is the new copier something that we purchased, or is it leased?
So we are using money because we're what's called a net lender library. That means our collection is desirable, and more people want our books across the central and western region than we take from other libraries. So we get cents back, and it adds up. We get a little bit, about $10,000, a little bit more than that usually, from the state every year.
Oh.
And that goes into a separate fund. So that money, basically all the money we made last year, is going towards the purchase outright of the copy machine. So that's what the Board of Trustees decided. My recommendation was not to lease it, only because we're also paying a monthly maintenance cost. So I'd like really the monthly cost to be the maintenance and to focus on that. And then because we did make, you could say we made enough money to sort of, we haven't spent any state aid money from the library side for a year. So it was time to identify a project to spend the money on. And we were not, it's always for unanticipated costs. The contract all expired before I took my position as director. It was something that the children's librarian, when she served as director, coordinated. So it was, for a number of reasons, it was time for a new copy machine. It was a refurbished one. I swear it was from the 80s. It jammed all the time. It was kind of awful. So we wanted to make an investment in a purchase, Matt. That was the aim.
Yeah. And the contract we have, the monthly contract, what does that look like? How much are we paying roughly per month?
It's the standard boilerplate, I think, that we have for most of the departments. Is that correct, Tom?
I don't remember the exact amount. I can certainly find that out, but there's a base fee that covers all maintenance, all parts, labor, and then there's cost per click, per page, basically, that covers all supplies. So all
including paper and toner?
No paper. Paper we do have to supply, but it covers all the toner, all the drums, everything like that. So, and that's we'll work on what we set the rates to be for the public to be charged on that. So, we've had discussions, I know, in this committee about, do you set it really high to encourage people not to use it, or do you set it, you don't want to set it too low to,
compete with
encourage
the local Kinko's or local.
But we want to make it certainly reasonable and make sense. So we'll certainly look at that.
Does the maintenance contract have any restrictions on, use by the public?
No, this unit is intended for public use. It's card op, so you can swipe your card and get charged for your however many pages. Hopefully no one comes in printing 1,000 pages, but
I'm just asking, is the people who are providing the maintenance contract, are they okay with us allowing the public to use it, even if the public is paying?
Yes, yeah.
So that puts more wear and tear on the machine.
That's the intent of this particular machine. That's
okay.
That's how they market this one.
Is this machine color?
We're paying per it's color, and we pay per sheet on maintenance. So I'm sure that there's a profit on it.
Card operated, clearly it's intended for some kind of public use. I mean,
correct.
If it was pure internally, you wouldn't put a card.
We are very excited. We're going to probably set the rates fairly similar to what they were with the old machine, which I think will, if it gets usage, will end up hopefully benefiting the library. We charged, I think, 10 cents for a black and white and 25 cents for a color, if I'm remembering that correctly. I have to look. It's been so long since we've had a copy machine at the library, it feels like now. We will have scanning for the first time. which is very exciting because we didn't have that before. And
where do the scans go when you scan something?
to a
It's-
library network, right?
No,
Oh, sorry.
actually, it's a cloud service. So
Okay.
it's completely disconnected from our storage. So again, it's a solution designed for public access. The other feature is remote printing. So print from any device, with release it at the copy machine. So so it has definitely some good features that will benefit the patrons, I believe.
And one of the #1 things patrons have asked for is the ability to use a credit card. So we previously only had a coin slot operated one that took $1 and $5 bills. If you came to the library with a 10 or a 20, the coin slot machine would not take it. So we're transitioning to a credit card only. So that actually is helping us with sort of a long-term reducing contact between cash and money. I feel like we're living in a more electronic age with money, and we have a fax machine right now that is credit card only. It makes sense to have the copy machine sort of reflect that as well. Generally, people are only coming to the library with credit cards. So it created sort of issues for the staff when people wanted to make a copy and couldn't pay for it. So I'm excited to kind of move.
I want an NFC for it though.
What's that?
What is
contactless
Hey,
payments?
Google Pay.
It might have that. I don't know. I can't say one way or the other.
what is the expected lifetime for this printer, do you think? Is it infinite as long as you pay the maintenance, or?
I don't think it would be infinite, but I would certainly say it's on the order of 7 to 10 years easily,
Okay.
with good maintenance. So,
Okay.
and of course,
sounds
that's
good.
all dependent on, if we have a resident that comes in and says, well, I'm going to print my, 100 copies of my 1,000-page thesis, then, it's going to obviously wear and tear a little bit faster, but
Switching topics to the public computers in the library, have we had any security incidents with public computers with members of the general public, either abusing them or installing things on them they shouldn't, or somehow trying to bypass some sort of protections? I assume we don't allow for administrative logins for general public.
no, those machines are actually locked really down. I think it's deep freeze that runs on them.
Yeah, so it's actually two different things, which don't always get along software wise. But CW Mars has a software package called Envisionware, and they use that to require a library card. So you actually, to use a public computer at the library, you need to have a library card. So if you don't have a library card, the idea is you have to go to the desk and get one, and then you can log in and use the computer. So see, want to use the library, got to get a library card. And we also use deep freeze, as Tom mentioned, which clears patron data. So if you save something to the desktop or to a downloads folder accidentally, deep freeze will get rid of it.
It wipes it after every use.
Yeah, we do ask our friends group to help us get they have our logo on them, but these little personalized flash drives. And frequently we actually, we're trying to sell them for a little while, but we do kind of give them out to people who need to save files or who are repeat computer users. We only get about, I would say, I think it averages out to around 25 computer logins per week. One of the benefits of having Envisionware, other than making people get a library card, which is a thing I like to make people do, is that it helps us track the amount of use of the computers, which is something that the state wants us to report on every year. So I can say, obviously wireless, I think, is a much bigger draw for people. They like coming in and using their own computers or their own device. But for the actual desktop PCs that we provide, it's around 25 logins per week. So that's not very high, even for a community our size. We have one computer that sits in the children's room, and then 4 that are on the adult floor. So it's 5 total.
How about the software that is installed on those computers? I assume use standard, probably say standard Microsoft Office suite. Is there any special or additional software that is a draw to users because it's normally, you know, expensive licenses or something like that?
No.
Okay.
The other benefit for a while was if you wanted to use Ancestry, the easiest way was to come to the library and log into one of those machines. It did authenticate if people were using our Wi-Fi. They were able to get on that way. But that was, I would say people did, I had a couple people and members of our local genealogy club, which has a monthly meeting at the library. They would ask about using Ancestry, and I would encourage them to get a card if they didn't already have one, and then use one of those PCs. So they were very excited when it became remote. I would say in May, I think that was when that one, they were able to log in. So now I'm worried I'll never, that's gonna cut down on that 25 uses per week when we finally get back to normal, you know? So I don't know, it's, I know I've been talking a lot with other library directors in the area, and I know in Clinton, you know, there are people who are reliant on the public computers and who need to go to the library there to use it. And she's tried to facilitate that. I've gotten almost nobody who has asked to use the public computers specifically. We had maybe 1 or 2 regular users who would come week to week. And I honestly, I hope I've talked with them and about other things, and that it hasn't come up about them not having access. I think somebody didn't have internet at home and then got it when the pandemic hit. So, you know, again, I don't know if that user is going to end up coming back when we come back. I think it's important to have public computers and have that as a service. But when I first got to the library in 2014, I was hoping to expand that area. And I've seen the usership was like around 42 uses per week. And then it's dipped down to 25 6 years later. So that shows you that people using our desktop PCs has been on the decline, not on the upswing. Really, the computers that that we need and that need to get replaced are the ones that the staff use. Yeah, well, which honestly, it's helpful for everybody to have a computer right now, so that way it's minimizing multiple people touching the same service.
I assume you're also seeing more people coming in with phones and tablets and laptops and just using their own devices rather than yours when you were open. So if I could change the direction a little bit, and I don't want to cut anybody off, but in terms of, let's say, blue skying a little bit, are there any initiatives, technical initiatives that you ponder periodically that would either substantially increase the level of service that the library provides or substantially improve the efficiency / reduce costs? You know, are there, if somebody said, well, okay, you know, here's a bundle of money that we expect to get paid back over time, we really want you to make things better in the library. We want service to be better, or we want you to be more efficient, or whatever. Are there things that you would be able to list that right now that you would do?
The short answer to that is no.
Okay.
There's been a couple of things that we've surveyed users about, that we've asked about. There's a couple things I guess I have on a wish list. There's a digital service called Canopy, I think, which is similar to Hoopla. I think it has a lot of children's content. That was something we were hoping to explore. We did do a pandemic services survey. I want to say that happened around April and May. I think we were running it. We got about 300 responses, which is good for a library survey. And people said they were generally happy with the electronic resources that we're offering. So that was surprising. I thought people would ask for more. And we had given a couple options. We have explored the idea of doing wireless hotspots. That's been a service that's been offered at other libraries. You know, I think this is similar to the desktop PCs. I think generally people in Southborough, it seems, have access to the internet, or they're comfortable, again, under normal circumstances, coming to the library and using our Wi-Fi. They don't really need to check out a wireless hotspot for a brief period and then bring it back. Westboro, I think, has about 10 of them. And I've spoken with Maureen, the director over there, and she, I think, has mixed feelings about undertaking it. I think she's glad she has them, but I think there's been some challenges, and they haven't been heavily used. So one of the things we are going to offer and that we're going to try is the consortium just sort of contracted with a chat software called Library Help that I think one of the vowels is a 3. That is going to be integrated into our website. And the idea is if you can't come to the library, which people can't right now, you can chat live with a staff member. So we're currently figuring out how we're going to integrate that into our operation, if we're going to have designated staff that are assigned. I have a feeling like I'm going to be answering a lot of library chat questions at first, but the idea is that maybe we can help people with ebooks without actually physically being in the same space as them. There's also applications for sharing screens, which I haven't figured out how to do. I've only really briefly looked at the software. We're in a trial period right now. I believe it starts in either August or September. So that'll be something new. I mean, we weren't looking to adopt a chat software. We also got a grant from the state for this thing called Beanstack. That is like a book tracking software that also has challenges where kids can earn buttons, right? Like badges, that's what they call them. So we integrated like summer reading challenges, and a lot of the parents and kids have downloaded it to try to use that. The license we get is for 2 years. It's very unlikely we'll renew that. I think we got it for free from the state for 2 years because they offered it through CARES money. We are always strong with our physical summer reading presence. So I'm satisfied with offering this for now, because we're trying to get kids reading in as many ways as possible right now. And they can't come to the library to do that. They can come and pick up books and summer reading packets, but they can't come inside. So this is an option that they can sort of track their books. They can do challenges. So we've offered some new things, I would say right now. We're trying to market those and promote those. That's always the challenge. I feel like I have conversations with residents every day, and it's funny how many people email me and I redirect them to the library's website, or I give them a specific link. And we've really tried to refine the library's website and give a lot of information there. So, you know, go to our website, I would say, is the big thing. There's a lot you can learn there. There's a lot you can do there.
Have you shifted
Ryan,
Go ahead, William.
I was just going to ask Ryan, it sounds like, you know, you're putting together a mosaic of all kinds of different sources and, you know, materials. Is it very much still that the individual libraries have to do that themselves? They have to sort of figure out all the different things they want to put together in that mosaic of resources that they're going to present?
I think a lot of the libraries try to meet the needs of their communities. And then, you know, I think the budget is a factor. So if it's a big community and the library has money in order to invest in adding electronic resources, expanding what they're doing, that is something that they pursue. I mean, if I'm asking people in the middle of a pandemic when, you know, are you satisfied with electronic resources? And I would say about 60 to 70% of the respondents are saying yes. That means that right now people are using what we have. We're seeing, in many cases, the databases, the electronic resources are doubling in number or more. So I think people are taking advantage of what we have, and they're happy with it. So I don't want to add too much more. I think, again, it varies from library to library. You know, the amount that Worcester provides is not going to be, I think, what Southborough provides. I think we have a resource called Mango Languages. That was something that has been very popular. So you can learn a language on it. Westboro had it for several years, and they were not getting very many people who were using it. So Westboro patrons are sometimes directed to us to use the resource. It's not something we have an annual subscription for. We paid them one time and they gave us access to the resource because of how small our community was. So that is unique. We don't have any other resource that's like that. I would just say, you know, that's something Westboro doesn't have, but we do. And that's something we're happy to have Westboro residents use. So
Westboro residents come and get Southborough library cards, is that right?
Yeah.
Ryan, are you coordinating or going to coordinate at all with the school libraries, especially if they go to distance learning?
We provide the summer reading books that the schools have put together, and they have been giving us advanced copies of those lists, which has been very helpful. You know, I always say I wish there was a little bit more coordination. I know that the school librarians are very busy. I don't know what next year is going to look like for them. You know, we are paying attention to the schools and we are trying to engage with them as much as possible. Is there sort of a concentrated, coordinated effort? No, not currently. That's something we'd be open to collaboration with the schools long term.
It sounds like you have a lot of resources, and you know the maybe more resources and more sources than the individual school libraries have, right? Because you know you have more staff, larger budget, more, you know, and maybe in touch with a larger library community than they are. I'm not sure.
There is a library, I think a student library group at Trottier, and as part of our strategic plan last fall, we actually went to the middle school and talked with those kids. And actually many of them came into the library and registered for cards. I think about half of them had cards, and then I would say about half of the kids who didn't came in and got them. And there was only maybe 14 kids in the group. But we took notes and we integrated what the kids wanted to the strategic plan. And that was set up in coordination with the school librarian at Trottier. So that's my shout out for them. They were very accommodating and they allowed us to go into the school and talk to them. You know, we were hoping to do more outreach like that, especially with our new teen room. So that's something I'm hoping will resume when things get closer to normal.
You know, one thing that is really quite interesting is that, you know, now that people are doing a lot of virtual meetings, you know, suddenly, you know, there's a whole bunch of possibilities for organizations who never could outreach to the people that, you know, that they serve to actually hold like town halls. So the Massachusetts Commission for the Blind holds a town hall now once a month. And I would say it's probably far superior to anything they could have offered before, because it would have been very difficult for people to get, you know, to any physical location. And I kind of wonder if maybe, you know, other organizations might want to hold town halls, or, you know, just sort of ways to use this Zoom infrastructure, whatever, as a vehicle for creating more sense of community, even though people can't get together.
We have really tried this summer to do some Zoom programs, in particular for youth, for younger people. We haven't gotten a great response, I would just say, with the exception of we had an established craft program and a programmer who does it. She basically switched to virtual, and those programs have been maxed out. So sort of looking to the fall, I can't really plan for physical in-person programs. So we're looking to have virtual programs. I think what was happening was people were doing virtual school. They don't really want to do a lot of virtual education or recreation programs on top of school. So it seems like that's been pretty consistent with the summer as well, is that people were sort of on Zoom overload, or zoomed out is a phrase I've heard, right? So, we have a grant, a state grant that we got, and I got an extension on that because we were supposed to have completed more craft programs than we did, because we had to cancel all of them in the early spring. So we're going to be able to use that money to provide virtual programs in the fall. And that's all coordinated through the vendor that we hired. She got a Zoom account. She mails the materials directly to people's homes, which is, you can't ask for better service, I think.
Wow.
As far as the library providing like our own, we tried a virtual book club, which has had kind of mixed results. People attend, but it's not a high number. We're maybe getting 5 to 8 people per session. That's not bad, but it's not great. And honestly, the numbers fluctuate depending on the week. We tried to do a virtual teen book club for the summer, and we only got, I think, 2 or 3 kids who came to it. So it hasn't been, we're going to refocus our efforts, I think, on, the curbside, because that has taken up a lot of the library's time, and we're getting closer and closer to 80 or 90 orders per day. It's just that's taking up a significant amount of time, and it's a lot of manual labor. And then really what I'm doing is I'm trying to help the staff with curbside. We're now processing new books again, and then I go home and I've been running Zoom programs. So it ends up being like, Tom, I think, can relate to this because I know he's had to do so many meetings. I basically work all day, and then I come home and I have to do meetings online, and it ends up being a 9 or a 10-hour day. And it's not feasible for me. And I've tried to delegate this to library staff members, and they are just as tired as I am. So, I think programming, we're hoping to provide more adult programming that might be in a virtual space next year, if we have to. And we're looking at different options.
How about the cookbook club? Has the cookbook group, has that gone virtual?
We tried last month. We had one of the members attend. We picked a book on Hoopla, actually, to try to promote that. So many of the club members didn't want to. I think the draw was that people got free food. And they were able, because everybody could.
Now we know why everybody was attending the book club.
Yeah. The whole idea is we picked a cookbook, we provided copies, and then people would make something from the cookbook, bring it to the library and share. So it turned into like a little potluck. And it was fun for the one person who did attend, and there were 2 staff members. And we just cooked and talked for like an hour. And that was fun because I hadn't seen that patron. So me and Mariana, who's the staff member who came up with the whole idea, we had a fun, it didn't feel like a library program. It felt like we were giving a one-on-one, cooking tutorial. But we tried that, Matt, and it didn't. And then we asked, we told people if we did it on a different night, a different time, and they were like, no, we'll wait till you open. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, I know we've taken way more of your time than we asked. Are there any final questions for Ryan?
No, I'm sorry that I talked so long. I can clearly talk about the library all night. So
No, it's wonderful. Thank you. We want to greatly thank you for your time you spent with us tonight. And obviously, this could be any sort of continuing. We want this to be a continuing dialogue. We can, if we have ideas, or if you have ideas that might need some, to ping us on technology. Obviously, Tom is doing a great job, but we're here also to help support you and Tom indirectly. So.
And Tom has been so accommodating. If there's an issue or a problem, he tries to get to the library that day. And that has just been so important in a time when we're so reliant on technology. So he deserves a lot of credit, and he gets a lot of my praise. So thanks to him. And I appreciate your time tonight and all that you're doing. So thank you all.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, we'll move on in the agenda to the next section, which is COVID-19 risk mitigation via technology. And I know that we'd previously discussed this, but I think we'd continue discuss it again, see how things are going. And I know, Tom, you put together some notes on this topic as well.
Yeah, so I did see the questions about Zoom capacity for virtual meetings and things like that. So I just did a little bit of analysis, if that's what you're referring to cover at this point. All right, so if you don't mind, I'm just going to share that real quick here.
Please.
Share. Oops, wrong thing.
You'll send me a copy for inclusion in the minutes?
Yes. All right, so are you able to see the,
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so I went back in history basically to count how many meetings were on the calendar. Okay, all of these counts include anything school related, which I don't deal with in our current Zoom environment. It includes joint meetings, so advisory and selectmen will each post a meeting, but they're really meeting together. And it also counts cancellations, just because I didn't want to go through that much detail and clicking on each one to see if it was canceled. So since fiscal 19, so all the way back to July of 2018, the most meetings in any given month was 58. So I highlighted the 3 that were 58 and 2 at 57. Will, you had asked about most committees still being on hiatus, and I was actually somewhat surprised to see that if you compare July, the last 2 Julys, so July of 18 and July of 19, July of 18 had 27 meetings, July of 19 had 33. And as of the time of putting this together, so this was on yesterday, I believe it was, there were 31 meetings scheduled in July. So it doesn't seem like the virtual environment is stopping people from meeting in all reality. I can't say specifically one committee is not meeting or one committee is meeting more frequently than they had in the past. But ultimately I wanted to look at the capacity as well. So I took this 58 as a target. Okay. So like I said, as of right now, we have the capacity to do 2 meetings at any one time. One of them can have public comment, the other one cannot. So that's one limitation that we can address going forward. With the current demand of 31 meetings, if we look at the July calendar, and assume 2 night meetings every day of Monday through Thursday, okay, avoiding Fridays, because I know most committees don't want to meet Fridays, though Friday mornings are still available. I figured out that we can add 24 meetings to that. So that's up to 55 total meetings. So that's pretty close to that max capacity without really trying. Okay.
Is there a max number of attendees, or is it just
100.
meetings that we have to work?
It's 100 attendees. And if we ever got to the point that we had a meeting that had 100 attendees, so now that being said, I know that conservation has, I think it's either conservation or planning has been reluctant to continue having the Park Central hearings because they do expect a large turnout. That being said, the physical spaces that we have for meetings, I don't know can accommodate more than that anyway. So if we were back in pre-COVID time, the townhouse, Corderville Hall, I know public safety can't house more than 100 people. So, you're still running into a capacity issue at that. Okay.
Trotter Auditorium can't be reserved for meetings, right?
I'm sure if it were a big hearing, it could be, but that's a whole other can of worms to deal with. Yeah. Okay. So an additional note on capacity, you'll notice on July 15th, there were 6 meetings scheduled that day. Now, we did have one cancel, but that was basically 2 morning, 2 midday, and 2 evening. Actually, it was 3 evening, and they were just stacked up. So we do definitely have the bandwidth to handle a large quantity of meetings with the current licensing. Does that meet all of the scheduling restraints of some members? That I don't know. Okay. I've said from the beginning that if we start running into bottlenecks, we would reassess this, the licensing levels. And I was talking to the town administrator today, and we were talking about the possibility if this continues, for the longer haul, then maybe we go and upgrade to have 2 webinars, so that we have the public comment on both meeting rooms. The other kind of comment on that is prior to the public safety building opening, we really had 2 main meeting rooms available anyway. We had Corderville Hall and we had Townhouse. You could book a small office at the South Union or something like that, but it wasn't ideal anyway for public access. So, that's kind of where I am. But basically, if we had 6 meetings scheduled every day, Monday through Thursday, we could have 108 meetings scheduled in July. I don't want to manage that many, but we could certainly do that. And so I don't think that it's an issue of the capacity of the licensing at this point, besides the public comment and no public comment.
Well, there's also the Tom LaFlamme.
Well, so,
right?
Yep. So, a lot of people have commented about that. And I will say when we first went to virtual meetings, I was in on every meeting. And that was partially because I needed to develop the process and document the process. I now have, I believe, 6 or 7 people that help me out, different employees, some of which are staffing the meeting anyway, so they're there. So I trained them. I have done another call to see if anyone else is willing to do it, because again, I don't want to sit in on 6 meetings in a day because it's not efficient use of my time. But that's neither here nor there. That's just if we're going to continue in this environment, then more staff are going to be trained to be able to handle the bandwidth. Okay. Moving on, just a quick cost analysis. So right now, the base cost for 2 hosts in Zoom is $300. And then the upgrade to the webinar is $400 using round numbers. So right now we are paying about $700.
A month or a year?
No, annual. Oh. Okay. So when we started this back in March through this past Friday, there were 114 total meetings, virtual meetings. So we're looking at just over $6 per meeting for that investment, which is pretty short money for what you're getting, I think. And then if we project out to the rest of the year, based on that average, we're at about 345 total meetings, which brings that cost down to $1.15. So every time there's a virtual meeting, that cost per meeting is obviously ticking down. So, you know, I can't scoff at that return on investment. You know, I know someone had pointed out some free options out there. Zoom has given a lot of really good capabilities to us. You know, we can do the live to YouTube, we do the recording. One of the nice things about the live to YouTube is once YouTube processes the video, it actually has closed captions on it. Not 100% accurate, but it's close enough to get a good sense of what's going on.
So that's automated voice recognition.
Yeah, yeah, on the YouTube side. So it doesn't happen live, but I found that kind of by accident, and that was actually pretty interesting to me. There are ways of doing closed captions live, but that requires someone sitting there typing, and I don't think anyone really wants to take minutes quite that detailed.
I mean, even Southborough Access Media, I'm guessing, doesn't have closed
right.
captioning, right?
Right. So, so you know, there was a question about some of the free services, and you know, I'm just a little leery of free at this point. I've gotten pretty good support. Once I got through the initial licensing, because everyone was onboarding at the same time.
I mean, to me, this is honestly dirt cheap. I mean, this is nothing.
You know, especially for the feature set that we get with it. And from what I've seen, it's very user friendly. I know there's some people that are still struggling with using it, but I also think that there are some people that are just going to struggle with being in a virtual environment, regardless of what the solution is. So, and then, Will, you had mentioned possibly using multiple platforms, and I just, from a support standpoint, I can't imagine doing that. It'll be one thing with Office 365, employees will be able to use Teams eventually. I think that's a little different, having employees choosing what to do, as opposed to board and committee members saying, oh, well, all right, this week you're in Zoom, oh, next week you're going to be in Teams, oh, the following week Google Hangouts. It just, I think, will add way too much confusion.
Sounds
and
like my life.
What's that?
Sounds like my life.
Yeah. So as much as we can standardize, I think it's the way to go. You know, unless there is something glaring with the current solution, my recommendation would be to stick with what we have. I know that there was concerns of security when, you know, everyone went to Zoom. Knock on wood, we have not had an issue through steps that we're taking, precaution, you know, and just awareness. So, so I just want to go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, your analysis is excellent, and obviously at this usage level, you're absolutely right. I mean, we don't need to do that, you know, to complicate things. I guess, you know, my question would be, what do you see as the likely future of the cost? I mean, is Zoom going to raise their rates, or like email, are the rates going to actually drop as this becomes kind of a loss leader?
Yeah, you know, I often wish I had a crystal ball. I'd love.
You don't?
No. If I did, I wouldn't be sitting here anymore, because I would have invested in Zoom about 6 months ago. You know? No. I think that it will go the way of cable internet, computers. You know, the cost will stay fixed. Feature set will improve. That would be my hope. You know, that they'll add more features for the same price. I don't foresee them dropping their price. I don't foresee them tripling their price, because that's just probably really poor business management at that point. So to look at the.
Have any of the people who've used Zoom so far, have they used any of the extended features like polling, etc.? Have you seen much of that?
I have not gone into that, and part of it is also balancing open meeting, right? You know, I've discouraged the use of chat amongst committee members for that purpose, because now once you start doing chats, well, now you're having secret conversations, and they are part of the record, so they do download and whatnot, but it's just an extra step to deal with, and we just avoid those pitfalls if we can. Polling, it could have some value, certainly, in a selectmen's meeting that they're trying to figure out the pulse of the town or something, not necessarily a binding vote, but something to, just a straw poll. It's definitely something we can look at expanding if we continue this route.
One nightmare question here.
Yep.
These YouTube, I mean, like what we're doing right now is being recorded and it's going to go into YouTube.
Yep.
And that raises a couple questions. First of all, I mean, how long is it going to be on YouTube? Is this like a forever thing, or is there a time limit? And then the other thing is, do these YouTube videos become part of our public records that we have to be able to search or provide to people if they request it?
So the long and short of that is I have not seen anything where the videos will expire. That doesn't mean that they won't. Certainly we're putting them out there, so they are public record, but to that extent, we're leaving them in the public domain. So, I don't have to produce them at all. I just say, go see them here. I know you had asked a question about advertising, and, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one either, to be honest, whether or not they can put advertising. If they were to start and we had an issue with it, we could certainly host those videos somewhere else if we needed to. That's, but we don't absolutely have to stream to YouTube. We can just record to the cloud, which I do as a backup anyway. So if something happens with YouTube, I can always download it and upload the file.
Well, are you saying the town is not trying to actually make a little bit more revenue by adding advertisements?
Yeah, that's a slippery slope.
What about Will's question about whether the YouTube videos become part of the sort of town record?
Yeah, so I think so again, it's in the public, it's public domain, theoretically, yes, they are.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't want people calling you up and saying, could you please tell me exactly where or what video and what timestamp I need to look at to see a conversation on blah?
I don't believe we would need to, and this is maybe a better question better answered by the clerk, but I don't believe that we would need to give that level of detail. We can very simply say the MTC meetings are posted to YouTube. You can find them there. Perhaps compile a list of, the URLs for the videos and say, have at it.
Well, all the open records laws are all about just producibility of it. Like right. If you ask for the documents, then it's required to produce the documents. It's not incumbent on the clerk to actually do some analysis or find or searches or summary statistics. So it's the same thing, I'm guessing.
Right. So if someone were to say, okay, sorry.
Tim Litt pointed out back when the Cable TV Committee held a public hearing, when I published minutes on that meeting, I put timestamps from the YouTube video. And he pointed out that, it's nice that you did that, but the only thing that's actually official are the minutes.
Right.
So, actually, even from a producibility standpoint, it might be that, these videos are nice to haves, but they're not at all required by the law as long as we publish minutes.
Right. So they're required in the extent that it fulfills what Matt read at the beginning of the meeting. In posting the audio or visual recording, Or if we just produced detailed minutes, I believe that would also achieve the same goal, but this is the easiest way to make it accessible. That's what it comes down to.
I don't think we're, I think we still have to produce minutes for
Yes,
every
you do.
meeting.
You do.
So period, right?
Yeah.
The videos are nice to have, but they're not, in some respects, they're not official.
Right. Also, the videos, I mean, it seems to me that the videos are purely a nice to have. I mean, imagine, real life where we're having real meetings. If you were interested in what the MTC was doing, you could come to the meeting and see it live, or you could read the minutes. You could not, 3 days later say, well, I'd like to see the live meeting.
Right.
That's really not an option. So it seems to me
go reenact it for us, please.
right. The YouTube videos are the same kind of thing. They're being provided as a service now, primarily because we're not meeting live, and there are a number of challenges due to COVID. But it struck me that if we had a policy that said they're only going to live for 60 days or 90 days or something like that, we wouldn't be creating a disservice for people because they had 89 days more to see the meeting than they did if the meeting was live.
Yeah. So I did hear recently that there may be a greater push to record all meetings,
Well,
theoretically by Southborough Access, but and Southborough Access actually you can search back on their YouTube channel quite a ways for selectmen's meetings. So how long we are required to keep them, that is something that maybe we should look into and make sure that we're achieving that. But
well, there's a potential big fly in the ointment, which is that so suppose somebody pops up and says, Larry in the minutes did not faithfully represent what was actually said and done at the meeting. That he completely glossed over things and forgot things, or even changed things that clearly were, agreed to at the meeting. And the committee kind of allowed him to do that. So then it gets to be a kind of an argument as to, well, what really did happen at the meeting and officially happened at the meeting, right?
So the nice thing about that is with the video evidence, you can go back, oh, yeah, okay, and correct the minutes at that point.
That does bring up an interesting point that I hadn't thought. I've done minutes now for 3-4 meetings or something like that. That actually I do have the video as a resource if I need to go back and so sometimes I look at my notes and I say, well, I'm not quite sure what I'm saying here. I actually can go back and listen.
Yep.
I didn't even think of that before, but.
Well, actually, Larry, at the meetings that I take minutes for, I tell people that I'm recording the meeting, and I don't take notes because I can't read my notes anymore. And so what I do is I actually, when I prepare the minutes, I listen to the entire meeting. And actually, it's quite interesting because you can get a hell of a lot of detail out of a recording that you really can't get out of notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'll do some research to double check if we are required in this for a certain period of time, or what the deal with that is.
Okay. Any other comments on this the meeting topic, Tom?
So the big takeaway is this is something I'm always going to be assessing, and whether or not we need to increase licensing. And if that's something I'll talk about with town administrator and board of selectmen. And if they say yes, spend the money, then we'll spend the money. Otherwise, we're going to keep it status quo, because I can't see spending an extra $400 for something that may not get used. So,
yeah.
So are the schools going to be investing in let's say Zoom type capability if all the classes are going to be virtual this fall?
That I can't speak to.
Okay.
So I guess there are something on the order of 7 to 10 Zoom meetings a week right now.
Yeah.
What percentage of those meetings actually require some technical support during the meeting? How many do you have to actually get involved in every week?
So again, I have a bunch of people that are helping to facilitate meetings, and really that facilitation is becoming more and more making sure the recording happens. That's something I don't necessarily want to put on the chair of the committee. There are still some, well, how do I unmute, or how do I, get my video working? Why isn't my video working? But for the most part, I'll be honest, I kind of let those work themselves out.
Okay. All right, thanks.
So, sure.
All right, let's, is there any, going back to the agenda, guessing, given school is out for the summer, there's no probably updates on school administration. We don't have Andrew here to cover that. The documentation, I know that in previous meetings, Will, you mentioned that you might be working with Tom to document some of the processes, etc.
Yeah, I've been busy with other things. I'm going to be turning to that. I've talked to Tom about that, and what I was thinking is that I would try and put together a rough draft just to sort of, kind of experiment with ways to present it, and then meet with Tom. I don't want to take a lot of Tom's time.
That's good. When is the new, I think you got approval for a part-time person, is that right,
Yeah.
Tom?
So we did, we had 4 interviews last week, 4 first interviews. We may reach out to schedule some other first interviews. Unfortunately, some of the people that I had put on my short list didn't respond back. So, so that's kind of stretching things out a little bit. There were some promising candidates that we did interview. So, so we are moving on that. It'll probably be another couple weeks. Vanessa Hale, Assistant Town Administrator, is on vacation this week. So that's kind of putting a little bit of a pause, but I do hope for onboarding pretty quick after that. So
It'd be good, as obviously, as we did previously discussed, as part of the onboarding, to when you work with whoever, that they should hopefully generate documentation, or they should perhaps be creating the documentation as they're being onboarded.
yeah, and I'm trying to, every time I have a task that I do, like I just had to do a file restore from backup. I'm trying to document that process as I go,
yeah.
And it's tough because, something like that, it's, we need this file back. So,
Like
I want to just
need,
get,
but you don't want to.
I can just get it done, or I can take a few minutes and document it. So I'm trying to balance expectations, and even if it's, I get it done, but then I can go back and retrace my steps and document. So I'm trying to do that as I go. And build that all out.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Just a heads up, Tom, the Public Accessibility Committee is going to be moving ahead with a self-assessment, the ADA self-assessment.
Yep.
So we may be, you may be getting a visit from that assessment as to, how the websites are and things like that.
Okay. I don't have the agenda up in front of me, but do you want a quick rundown of the other tech stuff going on with schools, with the town? Okay.
Yeah, please do.
Fiber expansion project. The fiber is at South Union, formerly known as the Art Center. That's complete and live. Fiber to the DPW is waiting for a state permitting process to be able to cross Route 9, because they evidently are going to have to shut down Route 9 to pull the cable across the lanes.
Because it's aerial, is that right?
Yeah. So and it has to go across all 4 lanes. So so evidently MassDOT is a little less than enthusiastic about finding out about those things after the fact. So they're going through the permit process right now.
How did they get to the repeater, which is on the other side of Route 9?
They were able to go through intersections as opposed to like at the traffic light, I believe it was, that's how they crossed over. So I don't pretend to know all of the gory details of why that's the case, just that they are in the process. So that should be taken care of hopefully soon. Just a little bit of success story on the fiber project. When I arrived, the first budget that I put together was for FY18, and for communications, it was about $11,400 a year budgeted. Add in another $3,600 for communications to the radio sites. So that's now $15,000 a year. As of right now, we're projected at $3,500 for the year for data communications. Wow. So we're going to see real returns on this.
So have you shut down the South Union building?
Yes.
Dedicated internet?
Yep.
So it's now going
that's completely on fiber now. So that was a good success on that. Current projects, I'm working on updating the backup and disaster recovery solutions to include off-site components so that we're fully protected. I'm talking to 2 companies that do managed solutions tomorrow to get a little bit more information about their offerings and go from there.
This is off-site backup, you said?
Yep, on-site and off-site. So, managed with encryption, retention, everything that goes with that. Okay. On August 3rd, I am going to be holding an information session, training session on town email. You probably saw an email from me earlier today. I still have a lot of board and committee members that are resistant to using the town email. They either say it's difficult for them or flat out refuse to use it. And I just want to try to address all of those issues and explain the benefits and the reasoning behind everything that's in the email policy. So I do have a couple people that are signed up for it already. I'm hoping to get more.
I do have to agree that, for me, that the interface is just horrible. It's very difficult to use. Even, it seems like the button that you want, for instance, forward or reply or whatever, constantly moving all over the screen to different places depending on what you're doing. Not my favorite email client.
The important thing to remember is that you can use almost any email client to access your town email account.
Yeah. Really?
I was going to say, I don't see any different. It's no different than my personal email. It goes into the same program.
Yeah.
Same
There's actually instructions on the technology department page on how to access your email, and it gives all of the server addresses and ports required to configure it for whatever email client you want to use.
Yeah. So on my Mac, it goes into the same email client as my personal email and my other business emails from my various clients. On my iPhone, the same thing. I have Spark, which is an email client on the iPhone, and it all goes right into it.
I got to say,
wow.
Larry, one thing to be aware of on yours is that when you send email out, either your personal or your business email comes up in the signature.
Oh, I might never have set up a signature for my Meth account.
Yeah. So just
I'll fix that. Thank you.
Just heads up. So that's one of those things that I think that I can address just by having a session and talking to people and whatnot. So yeah. And then the final.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Hillary Clinton probably is a little bit regretful that she commingled, email.
You know, you say that, and that's essentially what I tell people is, you know, you're using a private server. And does that sound familiar? And my latest one is I had the realization that I would not go work for, let's just say Bank of America, and say, well, I'm going to use my personal email. Right. So,
Yeah.
So that there's that. And then the last thing that I wanted to let you know is that I'm ordering my computer replacements for this year, and they're all going to be laptops. So we're going to move to, we're going to have about 20 more mobile users if we have to go to shutdown again for some reason.
That's great. Going back to the backup conversation, what backup software do we use currently?
Currently, we use Shadow Protect and oh, geez, I'm drawing a blank. Give me a minute, and I'll find it.
No, that's fine. I was wondering if they have option, either that software or other software have options to back up directly to something like S3, AWS S3 or Glacier.
Yeah. So
and obviously encrypt on-prem, but then just store the encrypted blocks.
So one of the companies I'm going to talk to tomorrow does a solution that they do 30 days on-prem, and then basically infinite cloud storage. So it becomes redundant cloud-based. But you know, within the first 30 days, I don't have to touch the cloud. So where exactly it's stored, that's the type of stuff that I'm going to find out in discussions.
Have you looked into other software as opposed to services like Veeam, for example?
Yeah, I have. You know, my greatest concern with doing just utilizing Veeam is co-location. You know, I heard recently that your distance to aim for is 12 miles. You know, and you want to have your backups 12 miles away from your production, and I don't see a way to achieve that in Southborough. So now, you know, I've talked in the past about, you know, talking to another municipality that we could share some rack space in their data center or something. You know, and that's still something that I may look at. But if the price is right for a managed solution that they're checking the consistency, they're, you know, they have the ability to spin up a server in a virtual environment. If we have a physical hardware failure, you know, that might be well worth it for us to look into. So it's right now I'm investigating, but I think
sounds good.
That may be what I do.
Typically for backups, the distance doesn't matter as much as the bandwidth, because you're not dealing with a latency issue unless you're doing synchronous replication, real-time replication, which we wouldn't be doing. This is one-way streaming. It's asynchronous.
No, I think that the bigger issue with the distance, so for example, right now, we're in two different locations on the same street. So if a tornado came through and wiped out public safety and the senior center, where the backups are no good. So so there's definitely some need to put some distance.
Minimum distance for correlated failures. I completely agree. I'm simply saying that I just think there's lots of software out there like I say, Veeam that can handle lots of these things. Replicating to a commodity cloud platform. Anyways, something.
But you know, again, there's definitely some value to a managed solution, given the staffing levels that we do have in town. You know, if someone else is taking responsibility for ensuring at least the integrity of the backups, you know, that doesn't mean that I don't still have to test them to make sure that I can recover periodically, but that would be certainly something that I would want included in any kind of service agreement, is that whether it's a monthly prove that you can restore X server that I tell you I want to see it up and running and spinning within the specified time. I think there's definitely also value to, again, if they're able to bring us back up in a virtual environment for X number of hours or days while we, acquire replacement hardware, there's value to that as well. So
Sure.
I'm looking at this more beyond just the backup solution to backup and disaster recovery, all bundled together. So
Yeah. That sounds good. Obviously, you keep in mind for each of these services that we're still hosting on-prem, that we need a backup solution to the cloud for, or to some other system for that's managed. We should always keep in mind the future, the slow but steady move towards SaaS services themselves, where
right.
the backups and the availability and the BCDR are covered as part of the basic subscription for the service.
And to that extent, I believe that storage trends had exponentially grown over the past years, right? But I think we're going to start seeing a plateau to possibly a decline on the data that we need to be backing up from our local systems. But there's definitely going to still be some aspect of that, whether it's video for cameras or just files, so.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else to cover as far as the general tech, public safety going well?
Yep.
Any issues with their systems?
Just, growing pains, everything under warranty still. They had something going on with their security system the other day, but the vendor came in and resolved it, so.
Okay. All right. MTC processes, I don't have anything specific, but did want to definitely follow up. I'll plan on reach out to different department leads to invite them to our meetings, hopefully get them on the calendar well in advance. How do we think that went today with Ryan? It's good.
It was very good. What I would say though is that Ryan is a excellent champion for the library, and whenever you invite him on anything like that, he does a great job. I really doubt if we'll get nearly as good of input from other department heads.
That's good.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at the agenda before the meeting, and if we're going to do this regularly, I need to remember to do that, because I'd like to be able to think of some questions and topics
in advance,
rather than trying to come up with them while I'm on the call. I think I could be more efficient if I thought about it ahead of time. So I'll try to remember to do that next time.
Maybe one suggestion would be that we could have whoever we're inviting, if they're going to, if they're going to be presenting, what they're doing, maybe they could give us a brief agenda of what they want to cover.
Sounds good. The invitation is really from us to them to come, and so I submitted to Ryan a few just questions about, hey, what have been his biggest challenges over the past year? What is his strategy in the coming year in general, independent from the technology, and then given technology, what are the things he's envisioning? So
I would suggest having a conversation, one member of the committee having a conversation with the department head ahead of time, kind of getting at least a primer. That way, it's not a full necessary report all the way to. And it also helps build that comfort level that you're not inviting them here to change their process, but rather to find out how to be an asset.
Yeah, how to help them. Yeah. Okay. 5G wireless. This is, I don't know, Larry, I think you had some comments or had shared an article on the benefits, which are potentially some commonly overlooked for 5G wireless for municipalities.
And then there was the IET article I sent out that said, I can't remember the exact name, but basically it was yet again, and I've been seeing more and more of these, and it's always hard to know what the motivation of the writers is and who's paying them. But I've just been seeing more and more articles that have been in the direction of, 5G really doesn't create new safety issues or health issues for people, and that at least the IET article I sent out indicated quite possibly the contrary, because with small cells, the power output is so much less than macro cells that the actual field density, that the average, well, that plus the fact that 5G does beamforming, so that you're not being bombarded with
Beams that aren't relevant. Yeah.
Other people's phones that are 50 yards away from you, that it's likely that the risk due to 5G might actually be less than the
lower than 4G.
4G. So I mean, I'm not convinced that any of these are final yet, but I have been seeing articles of this sort. Some of them written by independent organizations like the IET. So, I think I don't know when this is going to come up again as a topic for MTC. It undoubtedly will at some point.
Larry, can you, for my benefit and also anyone that ends up watching this, what does IET stand for?
That's what is it? The Institute for Engineering Technology. Give me a second. Let me see if I can find the.
Sorry, I'm just recognizing that we throw out a lot of acronyms at times, and that's not always the friendliest thing.
Well, actually, I sent it out in email. So let me just look for the email. Okay, so it stands for the Institution of Engineering and Technology. I believe it's British, but it's theiet.org, THEIET.org.
Okay, thank you.
I sent out an article called "Allaying Health Concerns Regarding 5G and Exposure to Radio Waves."
Yeah, okay, excellent, thank you.
Yep. And one thing we do know for sure is that 5G does not cause COVID. So.
That we know. There's a lot we don't know, but that much we do know.
Yeah.
On a somewhat related topic, in case anyone has driven by Townhouse and seen the flagpole and not read any of the stories about that.
Oh, yeah. How's that going?
Yeah, the company is supposed to be returning the pole to its original form.
Well,
as I understand it, the company applied for a permit to perform structural reinforcements on the pole, and did not disclose the fact that they were going to be putting a basket at the top of the pole, which makes the pole basically unusable to fly a flag on, specifically to be able to lower said flag to half-mast. So the selectmen have rejected the design change, and they're supposed to revert it back to a normal flagpole. So
when you say a basket, is that what is it? What is the basket for?
Putting different antennas and more antennas up on the pole. So it's literally, if you haven't driven by, it's a big cylinder. I would guess I I wouldn't know the dimension off the top of my head, but I would say it's
Yeah,
probably a
this-
6 foot diameter basket at the top.
This is kind of the nightmare of 5G is that,
Right.
you know, the FCC has basically said that, you know, the vendors can do anything they want and the towns can't really stop them. I'm surprised that the town is able to reject what was done.
This is because the company leases the flagpole from the town. The town owns that real estate. So they can stop them from putting that up there. So just as a,
I'm not sure. I mean, you know, from what I've read, it sounded like any, you know, that the vendors could glom onto any public building they wanted as long as there was already some type of antenna there.
I don't know. I think that I think the issue here, there was specific language in the contract around it, governance of it, and the
to
vendor
remain
in this
looking like
case
a flagpole.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get that out here. I know that it's kind of hot topic.
Yeah. Okay. Strategic technology plan. Have you heard anything, any updates since the annual town meeting? I'm guessing from what I got from the annual town meeting, Tom, when we get your read, it seems like there's probably not going to be a fall meeting.
So again, having a crystal ball would be great right about now. If I were a betting man, I would say that the likelihood is fairly low that we would have the perfect conditions that we had for town meeting in June.
Yeah, that was a nice day.
Because again, chances are we would be still required to be outside. And, you know, I don't know about you, but October outside in New England could make for a miserable day.
Maybe we could do it in Jacksonville, Florida.
So
make it even more miserable.
I think that they're planning on trying to do it and trying to find a way to do it safely. But that's the key, is it has to be something that has to be done safely, and you know, stay tuned.
Okay, sounds good. All right, technology surveys. I am working on putting together a draft, some survey questions. I did proceed in getting as we've discussed in previous meetings, getting a Survey Monkey account using MTC funds. And so hopefully by our next meeting, we'd love to share the draft with this group. So
can I make a suggestion about that, about having the account? Share that information with other boards, committees. That way they don't go and buy their own.
Sure.
You know, because if they have just one survey to put out there, you know, it may be worthwhile to, you know, have it go through the same account.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of the things I've proposed in the past is to different departments is still, and as we discussed, coming up with a all town survey, periodic survey.
Yep.
And so that's more of departments, but we may be interested in having.
And I'll share with the departments next time we have a department meeting that we have that capability. Not that I want everyone to run out and try to do a survey, but you know, if you have a one-off survey, then let's use the resources.
I was thinking that, if we maybe putting together like a quarterly or biannual survey, and every department has a budget of X number of questions, and we just all promote the same survey, and start being more data driven, that would be good. Okay, great. All right, I don't have anything else on the agenda apart from scheduling next meeting. Is there anything else before we schedule our next meeting? Okay, should we look at our calendars for next meeting and get something on
Yeah.
on the calendar.
You have,
The 18th of August, right, would be our normal time.
okay. Yeah, that would fall into the third Tuesday. Now, my only question and remark on Tuesdays, and I don't know how it falls into their schedule, but Tuesday is selectman night. So, if you wanted to avoid selectmen, if another night might work, but that's.
I would like to move maybe to another night as well. I have a conflict on Tuesdays, unfortunately.
Okay, what is a better night for everyone? If we try, for example, did the same week, that's roughly the third week in August. Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday. What are people's thoughts?
Any one of those is good for me.
Wednesday or Thursday work for me.
Yeah, right now I don't have conflicts because everything else in personal life has been canceled anyway.
Yeah. Monday, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are my best days. Thursdays are often difficult because we're often away on Thursdays, although, since it's remote, it might not make a whole lot of difference.
Okay.
So
Okay. Sounds like Wednesdays. If Jeff is Wednesday, Thursday, your Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
So can we target Wednesday the 19th?
Yeah.
Should work for me.
7 p.m.
Wednesday,
Sounds
for
good.
everybody?
Now, do we want to change all future ones to the third Wednesday or just the next one?
Yeah. Does that work for everybody?
That's
As
works for
of
me.
right now, it does so.
Yes.
Okay. Let me
Just,
change the reoccurring.
just so I block off the recurring meeting.
Okay. I will update the recurrence to the third Wednesday. Say the third Wednesday of every month.
And if you can just book a meeting room sooner rather than later, so I can get that on the calendar, it'd be great.
Yep. Will do. And as of right now, I assume at least one of them is open right now.
Yeah, right now
And-
it's wide open, I believe. Yes, yeah, it's wide open. So you can,
Is it possible to book reoccurring meeting rooms, or is it discouraged?
I'm discouraging it right now just
Okay,
to allow
all right.
flexibility for everyone to be able to have a chance, basically.
Supposed to, we could just block out every night, and then it gives us
Yeah,
we'll cancel what we don't use. I love shared resources.
I have some committees that would like to do that, and so, 2 months I can deal with. And the other thing is that we're really kind of operating month to month at this point as far as how we're doing meetings. So
We're allowed to do, yeah.
So, okay.
All right, sounds good. We'll do that. All right.
All right.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All right. I think we can do a roll call vote. So,
Yes.
okay. Larry,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
William,
Aye.
and I also say yes. Thank you, everyone,
Right.
and we'll see you next month.
Good night.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Great.